New data shows 1 in 6 apartment sellers in Sydney are losing money despite nationwide property profits going up for the first time in a year. The report from CoreLogic shows a sharp rise in the number of short-term resales around the country, with nearly 10% selling at a loss. That's up from 2.7% just a year ago. Joining us now is CoreLogic's Head of Research, Eliza Owen. And Eliza, we've got some case studies in our online piece today. It's a story that really does make people think twice about the property market. In this situation where people find themselves unable to make repayments, what can the bank do to help?
Well, banks have seen this coming for a long time. It was about 2 years ago that the portion of loans going out on fixed terms ballooned to around 46% of new lending. And as a result, we've seen within some of the banking strategies a lot of proactive efforts around contacting people with home loans and helping them sort out these strategies of how they're going to work through a transition to relatively high variable rates. So I think definitely having a conversation with the bank around potentially restructuring the terms of the loan, say to interest-only payments temporarily, or even extending the life of the loan might be an option for some people. And I think, as we're seeing from these short-term resales, sometimes it is easier for people to sell. We're selling into a rising market, home values up 2.8% in the June quarter. And CoreLogic's data suggests that, if people have these deposit buffers, only a very small portion of suburbs are actually still 20% or more below a recent high. We estimate about 1.4% of suburbs. So sometimes selling even at a loss can work to cover off the loan.
So you said that there are options that the bank can give you, but some people will choose to sell at a loss so they can make an informed decision. When they take those options from the bank, hardship or interest only, do those decisions come back to bite you perhaps more than the loss that you would make if you just cut your losses then?
That's a really good question. I don't know if I'd phrase it like that exactly, but it's definitely worth understanding that when you change the term of your loan, it can become more expensive to have that debt. If you have a longer loan term or an interest-only loan term, for example, your interest costs are generally higher. So you want to weigh that against the benefit of holding onto your property. And for some people that will work, maybe for others not so much.
Why are apartments impacted more than houses in this?
There are just specific pockets of the Australian housing market where unit values haven't really budged over time. In this report, we focus on a 2-year resale period in one of our chapters, but we also talk in the Pain and Gain report about how loss-making sales are often held for a really long time, 8 to 9 years in some cases. And there are markets like units across Perth, inner city Melbourne, and parts of Sydney where values have remained flat or have even fallen. And it comes back to that big off-the-plan boom that we saw in the 2010s, where additional supply of apartments has kept values relatively subdued. And in the case of Perth, it was an extended downturn between 2014 and 2020 off the back of a mining bust, which has kept loss-making sales relatively high.
And Eliza, do we expect that rise in short-term resales to continue?
I think that we could continue to see a rise in short-term resales just because we've got a lot of fixed loan terms yet to transition, over 400,000 for 2024. Whether there'll be as many loss-making, though, I think is more questionable. We've continued to see home values rise even through July and August, and with the cash rate potentially going to move lower in 2024, that could increase the rate of profitability as well. Now, it's not ideal to sell within a short period of time, given how high transaction costs are for property. But at least if you can make a nominal gain, that's going to make the decision a little bit easier.
Eliza Owen, CoreLogic's Head of Research. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you.